Hey everyone, this is Karen Waksman, founder of Retail MBA. And today we're going to be covering the 5 things to consider when pitching retail chain stores. So if you have a great product that you think would be perfect for Walmart or Macy's, Home Depot, Kroger grocery store, or whatever it is for you, we're going to be covering the 5 things to think about when you're pitching them, when you're reaching out to them with your physical product. So let's talk about those 5 things. So the first thing I want you to consider is that most of the time, they can't hear you. So what does that mean? It means that a lot of times people are reaching out to retail chains. Maybe they got a buyer's list and they paid for it, or maybe they submitted their product online to retailers or whatever. They're just following their own strategies. They're trying to cut corners and save on costs, and they're just going after retailers themselves. But what happens is if you don't know how to pitch the buyer correctly, they're actually going to look at your information, kind of skim it, and either not reply, or you're just not going to get your products in the stores, because a lot of times you're not saying the words, the things that matter to them correctly, and so they just kind of ignore you. So I've seen some of the most amazing products not get into retail chains simply because they are not being heard by the retailer, because they just didn't take the time to really consider finessing the verbiage and setting it up correctly, learning about how to do that and so forth before they pitch retailers. So a lot of times it just can't hear you. And that's too bad, because you deserve to get your products into retail chains. So bottom line, focus on creating the best possible pitch for your retail product, and it'll make the huge difference for your business. Next thing to consider is they want more info about what you've done in the past. And so what does that mean? So a lot of retailers, pretty much every retailer, would love to hear about your retail successes. If you've sold anywhere before, like say you're trying to sell to Walmart, they'd love to hear about any other retail chains that you've sold into. Why? Because they love to hear that your product is not so risky. You see, if you've never sold your product anywhere before, they may get concerned that your product won't sell in stores. So what do you do if you haven't sold your product anywhere before? Well, there's ways to express that in such a way to get the buyer to believe that your product will sell, that your product will make them money, even if you've never sold anywhere before. How can I say that? I've taught tens of thousands of people across the globe on how to get products into retail chains. I have so many clients who've gotten the world's largest retail chains without any sales. They haven't gotten their products in the stores anywhere. They went from selling nothing to getting into the majors and so forth. So I know it's possible, but it does require a little extra handiwork and so forth. But generally speaking, they want to hear, what's been done and so forth, because they want to make sure the product's going to sell once they put it in stores. Again, all this is learnable, but you just have to consider that. The next thing that most people don't realize when they are thinking about things to consider before or when pitching retail chains is that these buyers can't ignore you. What does that mean? Well, most people have the common misconception that the retail chains don't care about you and have so many products in stores that they're not really going to pay attention to you. And the answer to that is absolutely, that's ridiculous. Today, more than ever, these chain stores are hungry for the next new product. I have friends who are Walmart buyers. Trust me, I talk to all sorts of retailers all of the time. I do large events and so forth, and we partner with buyers and everything. So I know that these buyers are scouring the web, going to trade shows, excited about when people approach them in very specific ways. But trust me, they are looking for that next new product. And the reason that's important for you to note is, number one, do not consider retail because they're not interested in looking for new products. It's not true. The other thing is, they don't mind if you're a small company, if you're a startup or whatever, as long as you present appropriately, they would be very interested in the product. And the reason for that is because their customers are looking for that next new product. And these retailers know that they will lose clients if they do not get new products into those stores. It's a very different game today than when I first got started back in the day. It was very not a big deal if the big manufacturers ran everything. Today, small companies are basically able to get in the stores fairly easily. And that's because these customers want that next new product. And the retailers know that the small guys have that product. So definitely are hungry for new product. The next thing to consider is they want more insights today than ever about your systems and your processes. So what does that mean? These retail chains are really curious about who you are as a business, because they are really afraid that if they do business with you, that you might not deliver, right? Because if you don't deliver, they have nothing on the shelves. Every square footage is accounted for. So what that means is they're going to look into what you're up to, make sure that you're going to be able to deliver on time. They're going to look at your shipping, your deliverability. Sometimes they'll explore your manufacturing, make sure that you got everything figured out. They're going to explore, you and funding and whether or not you're going to be able to pay for these orders, because they just cannot afford for people to mess up when they're working with them. And so the good news is all this stuff is learnable. All this stuff can be cost effective. It doesn't have to cost a lot and so forth, but it is something that you have to think through before you reach out to these guys or when you're pitching out to them, because they actually are going to care about your systems and processes, because they want to make sure, again, that they have a great partner and it's worth their effort to work with you. The next thing and the final thing is that they wish you wouldn't annoy them. That's pretty funny to say, but a lot of people reach out to retail chains and they reach out directly to the buyers and so forth, but they do it in a way that's really infuriating to a buyer. And so the buyer is not interested in their product. Now, that doesn't mean that the buyer doesn't want to hear from you. Now, if you approach them in a way that's effective, that's interesting to them, that you're saying the right words, trust me, they would be happy to know about your product and happy to know about you. But the problem is a lot of people are sending out information to the retailers, long-winded information, lots of detail, lots of words. These buyers don't have the time to kind of decipher code, because you may think that you have explained your product perfectly, but for a retailer, they don't have time to read through everything to figure stuff out, and or they don't have time to open 3D graphics or whatever. People get very creative when they're very excited about their product. So my point in sharing that with you is that they would love to know about you, but a lot of times you annoy them. So you definitely want to learn how to actually approach them correctly, because one chain store order can be, 10x or 100x times your business. I mean, it can grow your business exponentially. So I hope that helps. The 5 things to consider when pitching retail chains. Again, this is Karen Waksman of Retail MBA. If you are interested in learning exactly how to approach, pitch, and sell to retailers, we actually do a live event almost quarterly. Our events are called Retail MBA Live. You can take a look at the link below. The website for that event is retailmbalive.com. And basically, not only do we spend a full day with you, walking you through exactly how to make money with your physical product, we help you create your pitch, your strategy, everything. We also help you partner and get your products reviewed by retailers and so forth. So definitely want to come to one of our events because they're amazing and magical and people love them. So anyways, I hope this helped. And by the way, please be on the lookout for additional trainings that I create, because I'm here to support you in actualizing your dream of getting into retailers. Thanks so much.